anything bad happening.
We'll see how that relationship plays out during the course of this week. Time to talk to National Senator M.Canavan, who's been leading the party's review into net zero, along with his colleague Ross Cadell. To take us there, here was his leader David Littleproud on when the party will make a decision.
I don't control the speed of that process. So as soon as that process is complete and M.Canavan and Ross Cadell present the party room with the paper, then we've made a decision to actually work through this calmly and methodically. And as soon as we get that, then we'll facilitate that. That's always been the process that was unanimously agreed by our party room.
M.Canavan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, David. Great to be with you.
So is your review now complete?
Look, there's been a lot of work done on it. I definitely will be continuing discussions with my colleagues this fortnight, as we have every parliamentary sitting week since this review was announced. I've been getting great feedback from colleagues. I think the Nationals Party is single-minded here in seeking a better deal for Australians. Currently, we're not getting a good deal from net zero. It's been a bit of a scam where bankers and big business makes money and small businesses, families have to pay more. Power prices have gone up 40% since we signed up to net zero. Both electricity and gas prices have gone up by that much. It's not a good deal for Australia. So something's got to change. I mean, the government's approach is let's make this train go faster. Let's cut more emissions faster than the rest of the world. They're openly saying we should go faster than the rest of the world. I think it's a reasonable question to ask is why? Why should Australia cut its emissions at double the rate of the advanced world, which is what has been happening to date? And now the government for the next 10 years wants to take that to triple the rate that is planned over the next decade. Why would we impose those costs on Australians when the rest of the world is not doing the same? How does that help the environment? It doesn't. It just punishes Australians.
We'll come to some of that, but just back on the question, surely you know whether you've finished your own review. Is it done?
Well, look, as I said, I'll be presenting things to my colleagues this week. It'll be up to the party room whether or not my work, Ross's work, is good enough.
So you will present it tomorrow?
I'm not going to reveal... Well, I'll present work, as I have been doing the last few weeks. But, you know, David, you've probably got bosses or had bosses over your career. Sometimes when you present something, they tell you that's not good enough. Go back and do some more work. So that may very well happen tomorrow as well.
All right. Well, speaking of that work, have you spoken to economists? Can you tell us what's been involved in your work as part of this review? Who have you spoken to?
Yeah, look, I mean, I probably talk about net zero more than anyone else almost in the country, David.
That's probably
yes,
right.
I've spoken to a variety of businesses, economists, unions. I have met with green activist groups on the investment side just last week. I met with some conservation groups. I pretty much live, sleep and breathe net zero, David.
And have you done any modelling on this?
Because trying to get common sense back into our...
OK, some of your colleagues were expecting you to do modelling as part of this review. Has that happened?
Look, we hope to do some of that work. Obviously, in the time we've had, that hasn't been done just yet. That's an extensive exercise. I would make the point that when the government announced its 2035 targets, it's done no modelling on the cost of reaching those targets. And as someone who's done economic modelling myself, I think we've got to be realistic about what that can and can't do. As I say, the scoreboard's very clear. The lived reality of net zero is very clear. It is not working for the Australian people.
But I guess the need for...
Sure, there's a role for modelling, but the old saying is also true that if you ask an economist how to open a can of tuna, they'll say, let's assume we have a can opener. And so you've got to be a bit careful about how much
I take that point, but I guess the big question is, do you know what it would cost Australia to drop the net zero target?
Well, there has been. Sorry, just to be clear, what was that last?
What would it cost Australia to drop the net zero target, to get rid of net zero? What's the cost?
To drop net zero? Well, there's obviously in that question there's the cost of it. The calculation is what is the cost of getting to net zero, because the cost of dropping it is the benefit of avoiding those costs.
No, it's really not the question. The question is, if we drop the target now, do we lose investment? Do we lose opportunities? What's the cost of abandoning the target right now?
Right. Okay. Well, sorry. I mean, you can ask the question you like. I'll answer it the way I like. It's very clear, of course, that the cost of not doing something is avoiding the costs of doing it. Right? That's That's pretty common sense, and we know from a group called Net Zero Australia, which is a consortium of the University of Queensland, the University of Melbourne and Princeton University, all people who support a net zero objective, may I say, they put the estimated cost of reaching net zero in Australia at $7 to $9 trillion, getting close to $300,000 per Australian. Now that's obviously an enormous cost, and you have to wonder why we would pay that cost in just one generation when clearly the rest of the world is not acting in that way.
But surely,
so we should,
Senator, you also need to know the
costs.
alternative. You also need to know the alternative. And look, the Treasury's done modelling on this. They say dropping net zero risks lower economic growth, reduced investment, missed export and employment opportunities, and higher energy prices.
I'll just finish this.
The International Energy Agency has also warned that if policymakers and industry leaders put off action and spending today, will end up paying more tomorrow. The National Farmers Federation says farmers' interests are at stake. We need to stick with net zero, is the NFF's view. So they're all warning that there's a greater cost of dropping net zero.
Well, all those people have been wrong. I don't know why we'd listen to them.
So they're all wrong,
you're
wrong
about. These are the same people. Well, look, let's judge people. I think we should judge people on their past performance. And all of those organisations got behind modelling and said that by adopting net zero, we'd cut power prices by $275. That by adopting net zero, we'd get cheaper energy in this country. By adopting net zero, we'd attract enormous investment in critical minerals, and may also mention hydrogen. No one mentions that anymore, but that was what we were promised just 3 and 4 years ago. So I'm not going to take being given quotes from those organisations which lack any credibility in this debate. Now, take the Treasury.
But you can't say what the cost would be. You still can't say what the cost would be of dropping it.
No, they haven't. Well, as I said, we would avoid $7 to $9 trillion. That is a huge benefit. I can do that, David. And David, the Treasury, just to be very clear here, the Treasury did not model not doing net zero in the 2035 targets. They modelled 3 scenarios, all of which ended up us reaching net zero in 2050. Now, how can you do a cost-benefit analysis of a policy if you don't cost not doing it, if you don't cost a baseline? That modelling does not deserve any credibility whatsoever, and this is why we've ended up in this mess in this country, because we haven't been taking a serious look at the costs of going down this path.
Well, surely then you're making the case to do the modelling as to what it would cost to abandon net zero. Would we need to build new coal-fired power stations? Is that what we would need to do?
Okay. Well, look, one thing we perhaps should reflect on, David, is the recommendations of the Energy Security Board. They're an independent organisation which recommended that we need to invest, or we need to support all types of energy production, including new and existing coal and gas. And
so
that
what's the cost
recommendation was
of that?
made in mid-2022. Well, as I said, it was a recommendation of the capacity review into the capacity mechanism. What governments did in the end is ignore that advice and establish a scheme which only supports some types of power, which is wind, solar and batteries. And we're seeing the consequence of that.
But new coal isn't free. What's the cost and who pays for new coal-fired power? Because right now there's a lot of global investment appetite in clean energy, not so much in coal. Who's going to build new coal-fired power? Well, look, I think there are certainly people who would do that if it was opened up. The fact of the matter is that nothing, David. Well, I know I've spoken to lots of people. I'm not going to reveal them on your show, but there's secret sources.
What is true, David, is that there is no energy production being built in this country without government support. Right?
So government has to buy.
This ridiculous idea that well, look, the reality is the government's involved now, and what I do think should be something we go back and consider is to a technologically neutral platform where we allow all sorts of energy to join the race. So maybe coal doesn't win the race. I'm not necessarily saying that, right? I'm not saying that we should go and do that. But what we should do is let all types of energy production compete. Because the fact is that when we ran our electricity grid based largely on coal-fired power stations running at their design intentions of 80 to 90% capacity, we had power prices that were half what we have today.
Okay, but to be clear,
and
Senator,
now the government's just wiped.
You're saying if we abandon net zero, we don't know the cost of doing that. I take your point about the cost of sticking with net zero, but if we don't know the cost, there are secret investors who'll build coal-fired power, but the government, the taxpayer, will also have to be behind that. That's your alternative.
Well, what I'm saying is I don't know if those people will win the race, David. What I'm saying is what I do know is when you narrow your options in life, it tends to become more costly.
Okay.
So when you say, I want to do a certain thing, and you say, oh no, but I'm only going to get to that destination by running rather than using a car, it's going to probably take you longer.
Sure.
But maybe there's traffic and you can run there faster. But that's the problem we've got with our current system, that we are unnecessarily handicapping ourselves as a country by not using our own resources. Now, these are resources like coal and like gas that we export to the world and we let them use. And now they're taking our jobs. So we're not just exporting the coal, we're exporting our jobs as well. We have lost over 8,000 manufacturing jobs since we signed up to net zero. We've lost the entire nickel manufacturing industry, and maybe we'll get on to critical minerals. We've lost an entire nickel industry. We've lost a urea industry. We no longer make the most important fertiliser to grow food in this country. We have to import that. We no longer make plastics from scratch in this country. All of those things, those three things have happened since we adopted net zero. And so what I'm saying, let's take the anchor. Let's take the anchor off the Australian economy and let the thing go. And maybe it'll be coal, maybe it'll be gas, maybe it'll be renewables, but let's go as fast as we can as a nation and put Australians first.
I know, I hear that point. It still means power has to come from somewhere and be built by someone. One of your other concerns you've been expressing about wind farms and solar farms is the impact on koalas, the koala habitats. Do you accept there's a much, much bigger impact from coal mines when it comes to koala habitats in Australia?
Not where I am, David. I mean...
I'm talking about Australia. Maybe not where you live, but...
Yeah, OK. All right, OK. David, well, look, I mean, obviously, you've got to go out and see the real natural environment and have a look at what's happening. I mean, the devastation and destruction that is being done to the beautiful bush around central Queensland by large-scale wind projects is incredibly sad.
But why have you never raised this concern about coal?
Well, can I just answer, David? Can I just answer? It's a very serious issue, David. I think it's a very serious. Can I just answer? Right? Can I just get to the answer? I mean, the problem here is, David, I don't support building a coal mine on the Kalapa Ranges, which is some of the most pristine bushland in this country. I don't support that. I don't support a factory going there. I don't support an LNG facility there going, and I don't support a large wind turbine going there either. That's the problem. The problem is where these developers are choosing to build these large-scale wind farms is in some of the most pristine bush in our country because they're building on the top of ranges. They want to get the wind, right? They want to go as high as they can. And these areas have amazing biodiversity value to our country, and they're being absolutely destroyed. That is not where we build our coal mines. And I'll be very clear, I'm not against all renewables.
Okay. But do you accept you've taken a position against any limits on land clearing? There's much, much more land clearing for agriculture than wind farms in Australia every year, coal mines as well. You've never raised a concern about koalas until it comes to wind farms.
Well, that's not true. I was part of I think I worked for Barnaby Joyce at the time, but as part of a Senate inquiry, we made a recommendation to make sure that coal seam gas facilities were not built on prime agricultural land. I absolutely do not think that mines, coal seam gas facilities, any kind of industrial development should come on our prime agricultural land, and I also don't think it should come on areas of our country that have pristine environmental value. So I'm sorry, it's just not right. I mean, it's about getting a right balance here, David. We're out of whack at the moment, investing too much in one type of power and obsessing over it to the extent that we ignore other important values to our countryside. There is a real connection between many Australians and our natural bush, and we're not even valuing that anymore because we're trying to meet some international goal and please the United Nations. I mean, I don't give a stuff about the United Nations.
You'll now be defending the koalas.
Okay.
No, that's good to know.
Absolutely. Now, look, yeah, David, I didn't get into politics to wear a koala suit, but I find myself in this very strange position now where the green groups, the conservation groups, aren't doing that. You don't see them in the koala suits anymore.
Right.
They're too busy.
But you'll be taking a strong line on land clearing laws and coal mines, and you'll be defending the koalas now.
Well, mate, David, it's just about getting a balance in life.
Okay.
Right? And I'm not against all. Just to be clear, I'm not against all renewable energy. It's just having the correct balance, and we have got way out of whack as a country at the moment because
I've got to move on
over this one thing.
Okay, I've got to ask you about Barnaby Joyce. You mentioned the fact that you used to work for him. You were his chief of staff. You guys are very close. Can you explain to us where he's at the moment? Will he be welcome to attend tomorrow's National Party Room meeting, or does he first need to clear up whether he's staying or going?
Yeah, I think you were trying to get into Donald Trump's head before on the panel. I probably will pass on trying to get inside Barnaby Joyce's head too. But I do. He's a great mate, and I think he's a great Australian. Been an impactful statesman on the political stage for some time. I hope we do keep him in the Nationals Party. Look, I can't speak for the party room, David, but I certainly hope he comes along. It's unfortunate when people don't feel like they're part of the team and loved. And I know lots of people have reached out to him in the last few weeks, and as I say, I'd love to keep him part of the team.
But he says he's a free agent. He's not ruling out going to One Nation. If he's about to jump ship, should he be attending National Party room meetings?
Well, look, as I said, it's a matter for the room. I mean, look, if he's a free agent, I suppose keeping the sporting analogy alive, those free agents typically still play for their team. And if you've got Reece Walsh as part of your team, you put him in the grand final, if free agent or not.
Is he kicking goals for you guys at the moment, though, do you think? Just to stick with that analogy, do you think he's really kicking goals for the coalition right now?
Yeah, I think he is, David, because support for net zero is dropping off a cliff.
Okay.
I mean, there was a poll just a couple of weeks ago that showed that net zero now has net zero support, which is a big turnaround in just a few months. And I think Barnaby's played a big role in that, and pointing out the fact that this net zero promise we were made is not delivering. It's just not working for the Australian people, because they've seen their power bills go up, they've seen their jobs go offshore, and it's time to think again about this policy.
Final question. You've said you're not going to leave the Nats, you're not going to One Nation. Can I ask why? Where do you differ to Pauline Hanson?
Look, it's not about Pauline for me, mate. It's about the people that put me here.
Yeah.
I feel very honoured.
But where do you disagree
and
with One
privileged
Nation?
to be a senator. Well, I've just come to the point. I mean, it's got nothing to do with One Nation. I don't care about One Nation. I care about the thousands of hardworking men and women, many of whom are members of the Liberal National Party, who have given me this enormous privilege and honour to serve my country, to serve my state, and I'm not going to turn my back on them. Now, I know those members and supporters often get very, very frustrated with their political representatives, and we let them down sometimes. We let them down this year at the election, but I will do my best with a bunch of band of brothers and sisters to fight for what we think is right in this country, to fight to bring this country back from the brink of losing our entire almost all of our manufacturing industry, which is on the cards right now, given the power prices we face. We will fight to make sure that we have a future for young Australians, to own a home, that we control our borders, not have unsustainable migration. We will fight to put this country first. We've got a government right now that seems much, much more interested in getting a claim on the world stage, be it on climate change or Middle East peace. I think the Australian people deserve a break for a change, and I'll be fighting for them and fighting for them within the Liberal National Party.
Senator M.Canavan, appreciate you joining us. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, David.
All right.